Good morning, everyone. I want to make you aware that council meetings are available live through Zoom, and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. And with that, I would like to call to order this meeting of the Audit Committee. And I believe Dalton Hamilton, Matthew Beddick, and Donald Harrison are all going to be joining us virtually. So welcome to you joining us. And I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda for our Audit Committee meeting. So that's Councillor McClellan, Councillor Anderson seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. Is there any pecuniary interest to declare at this time? Seeing none, then we'll go to the order of business. And first off is the draft audited financial reports and Michael Blumhagen. When you're ready, Michael.
All right, thank you, Warden, and thank you to the members of Audit Committee and our citizen rep and also our auditors, KPMG. Today it's my pleasure to present to the Audit Committee the draft 2025 audited statements. They will remain in draft until approved by committee today. Also, once we receive back the outstanding legal confirmations, I'm just not sure if those have been returned yet, but once those confirmations and approval from this committee, then we'll be in a position to, or KPMG will be in the position to issue the final signed statements. So really the same process as previous years. You will have an opportunity to go into closed session with KPMG and the citizen rep and our county solicitors, so there won't be any staff present. So if there are any questions that you may have that could be considered confidential or that you'd rather not ask in public with staff present, then that would be your opportunity to ask those questions. But we will be taking questions, throughout the presentation if you do have some. But again, if there's some that you prefer you'd ask in closed, then we have that opportunity to do so. So I'll go over the statements, and once I get through those, then I'll pass it over to KPMG, who will go through the audit finding report. Okay, and just before I get into it, I really just want to give thanks to my Treasury team. We have a couple staff members here today, Lisa and Mark, and just want to give thanks to those two and the rest of the team who are not here today. But they really do all the heavy lifting and they do all the hard work and make sure everything goes smoothly for this audit. And I just get the pleasure of presenting to council today. But they're the ones that really make the audit happen and just make sure we get that clean audit opinion. So I just want to say thank you to them and just to let them know that their hard work doesn't go unnoticed. So. But I will turn to page 1 of the audit report. So that's page 3 of the PDF. And just to highlight, this is kind of what we want to look for as finance staff, and when we're dealing with our audit, that in the opinion of KPMG, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the county. And that's really what we're looking for as staff, and that kind of gives the assurance to council and to the ratepayers that the statements that are before you today are presented in a material fashion and free from kind of significant error. So I guess page 1 of the statements, but page 6 of the PDF, this would be our consolidated statement of financial position, or formerly known as the balance sheet. So Overall, we did have a good year for the county with a small surplus overall, and I'll touch on that in a little bit in terms of where that surplus kind of came from and how we might allocate that. But overall, we are in a good cash position. Slight decrease in cash year over year, down to about 87.5 million. It is important to note that the health unit here in Perth Public Health is consolidated in these statements proportionally. So just based on the requirements for an entity that would be controlled somewhat by municipal partners, we have to include our share of the health unit in our statements. So we have to include 43.07% of the health unit and all their numbers and all their balance sheet items, expenses, and revenue consolidated within our statement. So of that 87 million that you see, 633,000 of that would be for Huron Perth, and about 87 million would be for the county. Now that's just not all reserves. That's not just county reserves. That makes up a part of that. But that cash is there just based on some deferred revenue, so monies that the province has paid us in advance. And it also just includes that working capital that we have to pay our bills. So to pay our staff, to pay our accounts payable, to pay our vendors, et cetera. So that's when you see that number, that's just not all county reserves, and it's just not available for use, but it is there to support not only reserves, but our day-to-day operations. But we are in a good position overall. Accounts receivable, minimal change there year over year. But essentially what's included there are HST rebates from the federal government. We have a number of provincial government receivables that might be set up. Our net POA fines are included in there in terms of defaulted fines. So we've got some provisions in there for future collections. So that's what is kind of included in that accounts receivable bucket. Under the financial liabilities, again, minimal change overall, fairly static, but I'll just touch on a few. With accounts payable and accrued liabilities, small increase there, but that's just our general accounts payable. Our WSIB actuarial assessments included in there, and that was a $900,000 change, so that'd be part of that increase that you see year over year. That includes our holdbacks for all our construction jobs, some estimated provincial clawbacks, includes vacation accruals for staff just over year end, and some estimated union settlements. Deferred revenue, again, this is money so this $11 million, this is money that we have in hand. It's in our bank account, but it's monies that have been paid to us, but we haven't earned it yet. So that would be money such as unused OSIF dollars, unused gas tax, unused childcare monies that have been flowed to us, but we just haven't expended it, or we haven't actually, we don't have that entitlement to recognize it because we haven't met the eligible expenditures for that. So that's monies that are sitting on our books. So that 11 million would kind of be in our cash, in our bank account. Post-employment, I've talked about that before. Portion of that, 650,000 of that would be health unit. But essentially that's a non-cash liability that we set up. It's based on an estimate of if all eligible staff were to retire today, and if they are eligible for early retirees, this is what that cost would be. So 4.4 million. But we don't budget for that. We don't raise cash to cover the 4.4 million. What we do is, as there's early retiree benefit costs, we include that in the budget on an actual basis. So if there's 5 staff off that might be receiving benefits because they're eligible for early retiree, that's what we cover. And we would raise that through the levy. We don't actually cover the full $4.5 million that would be sitting there. Our debenture decreased there. We didn't assume any additional debt last year, so we currently have outstanding debentures of 4.9 million. And we're actually in a good position overall. I think our annual repayment between principal and interest is around 600,000, and we have total debt capacity of about a little over 16 million in terms of annual repayment. So we have sufficient debt capacity there for future infrastructure renewal requirements. Asset retirement obligations, again, that is just an estimate of future remediation costs for asbestos and fuel tank contamination. And that is no change in terms of our assessments. So that $11 million, it's an amount that we've included on our books for future costs. But we don't raise cash for that until we actually incur the expense. So if we have a capital item that will require remediation, that's the point where we would raise cash to cover that expense. Prepayments, again, that's little change there. That is just 2026 cost that we paid for in 25. So it's expenses that we prepaid, but not expensed in that budget year, but would be expensed this year for 2025. A lot of subscriptions, maintenance costs, and whatnot. And lastly, just we did actually have an increase in our tangible capital assets, and we'll see this as we continue to refresh our capital and our infrastructure. So we had a net increase there of about $12 million. So that's net of about 25 million in terms of capital expenditures that we've actually incurred, and less about 13 million in depreciation. So we had a net increase there of 13 or 12 million. And that's what we want to see as we continue to refresh our assets, that figure will continue to increase on an annual basis for the foreseeable future. And overall, we have our accumulated surplus. I should actually raise that a little bit. So we have an increase of about $8 million year over year in terms of accumulated surplus, and the majority of that is included in our increase in the tangible capital assets. Just to break that figure down a little bit, that 258 million, 2.1 million of that is our Huron Perth Public Health. Net capital assets, so net of the ARO, there's about $205 million included in that number. There's about $11 million in other non-cash adjustments that I've accounted for there. 60 million in reserves, so that is an important figure. So we have 60 million in reserves, and also included is our unallocated surplus of $1.37 million. So that was our surplus at the end of 25 was the 1.37 million. And I'll touch on that just a little bit on the next statement. So moving into our statement of operations and accumulated surplus, or essentially our income statement. Again, good year overall. This includes our Huron Perth Public Health. So where we see like provincial funding and whatnot, that all includes our share of the health unit. Just start kind of at the top in terms of our taxation. So a little bit of an increase here over budget, and that is due to our growth that we had in 25. So we had seen about 600,000 in additional supplemental tax revenue that we did not estimate in the budget. So that additional growth just drove some of that surplus that we realized. In terms of some of the government transfers, the federal, that's primarily our gas tax funding. That's our LIP program, housing dollars and whatnot. So increase there year over year, and that's really just due to the gas tax usage that we recognized. In terms of the provincial funding, this is really our main bucket of funding aside from taxation. So 46% of our funding does come from the province, and this supports whether it's OSIF or infrastructure, EMS, social services and childcare, OW, homes. So really that's the main driver of our revenue at 46%. The other municipalities, that's really just the health unit number. So that would just be recognizing the municipal partner funding for the health unit. And again, just touch on the user fees, licenses, service charges. That actually includes donations as well. And we did have a large donation that we received from Bruce Power for Gibbon Street. So the increase that we see there is essentially that $1 million that we're recognizing from Bruce Power to support the Gibbon Street project. So that is some capital funding to support that investment. And fines, we did see an increase here in terms of our fines. That was one large fine that was paid. It was $300,000 or $400,000 fine that was paid, and that kind of helped supplement our surplus for the year. But again, that's non-recurring. But we usually don't have fines that large, but we did have one that was paid. Decrease in our investment income, 2.4 million versus 3.9. And again, that's just a function of rates and a slow decline in our reserve balance, but really that's more rate based as opposed to anything else. And the loss on disposal of tangible capital assets, that's actually, so that's 843,000. That's not an actual cash loss that we lost, but that's just book value on the Bannockburn Bridge. So as we did that rehab, there was still some net book value on that component or on that structure. So as we did that, we had to recognize or write off that original asset. And, you know, and as such, we have to show a loss on disposal. In terms of the expenses, again, these are very high level. The aggregate of our accounts, there's about 1,800 accounts that kind of get aggregated in this statement. So it's kind of hard to kind of pinpoint specific variances, but I'll just touch on a few. Really under transportation services, we see an increase over last year and also budget, and that's our winter maintenance. So we actually incurred an operating deficit of about 1.2 million for public works due to winter maintenance. A couple other departments actually incurred some deficits or small operating deficits, one being EMS. We had some homes and a very small one at property services with respect to some winter. And it was primarily salaries driving the increases for homes and EMS. We had some departments to offset those expenses. So POA, again, because of that one large fine, we had some attrition management. There were some vacancies in BTS, planning with some increased fees and lower water source costs, and also through social services where we had some savings and some additional revenue within social services. So overall, from an operating, so it does show here that we've got $8.2 million in terms of surplus, but that's not truly reflective of the actual cash surplus that we had based on our budget. That portion also covers there's some capital funding in there. There's some reserve transfers that don't get accounted in there. So based on a PSAB, yes, we did have an $8.2 million surplus, but from a true operating perspective, we ended up with a surplus of $730,000 in operating, and we had a small capital surplus of $646,000. So that's where we ended up with that unallocated surplus of $1.37 million. And through the budget process, we estimated about $1 million surplus. That was rolled forward into 26. So we were slightly about $370,000 higher than that. And through my report in council, I just recommend that be transferred into the reserve for contingencies. A couple other quick comments before we take some questions. I just want to touch on our reserves. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have reserves overall of 60 million in terms of reserves, but that's not just all funds that are available for current use for council. And I'll just break that down just a little bit. So in terms of reserve for contingencies, we've got $10.8 million in terms of reserve for contingencies. And that's really what's available just to help support our budgets and, you know, our levy mitigation moving forward. We've got about 6.3 million here in terms of committed capital and operating projects. So these are funds, these are ongoing committed projects. They've been approved by council. They were in progress or not yet started. And these are funds that we're rolling forward into 26. So these are essentially committed funds and not just available for general use. We've got our ambulance station reserve at the 2.6 million. And again, those are restricted solely to use for base development or rebuilding of a base. And you will see a report later in County Council, which speaks to potential base renewal in Huron East. And these are funds that could be support or available to support that particular project. So again, it's those are restricted funds. In terms of the equipment replacement, we've got 10.7 million there. About 10 million of that is our public works fleet. So those are, again, they're not really available for general use. They're there to fund the replacement of our rolling stock, our vehicles or equipment, our graders, our tandems and whatnot for public works. The fleet, we don't actually raise any levy directly for these assets, and it's just all being self-funded through the equipment replacement. So that 10 million is really dedicated to funding our fleet program. We have 19 million for public works, which is available for use. The 3 million for the homes, again, it shows that yes, we have 3 million, but those are kind of earmarked for generators. Those are coming up, I believe, 27, 28. So that money's kind of earmarked for the homes and the generator replacements that are going to happen there. And water source, again, that 400 of that's going to get utilized this year just to support the program. So yes, 60 million overall, but if we actually kind of peel it back a little bit, there's about 39 million there that would be uncommitted and unrestricted for use. But overall, we are in a good position. Overall, we've got some funds to assist with our asset management pressures and also to assist a little bit on our budget mitigation. So I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions before I turn it over to KPMG.
So thank you, Michael. Going to go to council. Past Warden McClellan first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Mike, when you said we had 4.9 in debenture payments, is that debentures that the county took out directly, or does that also include payments to partners that have taken debentures and we're making payments to them?
For yourself, Warren, those are our two debentures. So that would be the bridges on 83 and also the Public Works Patrol Yard.
Do you know how many other debentures we've partnered with or what those payments are?
I don't have the exact numbers, but for 26, we start with Huron East. And that would be the only one that I know of. So that first payment comes in September with Huron East. So that agreement just, I believe that was in March or April, where we brought that agreement forward. And I don't have that number. I don't know if Mark, no.
If it's only the one, that's fine. Thank you.
Sorry, Jeff, do you happen to know? No. I believe it was yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. We can get back to you on that, but yes, that would be for 26. But that's it in terms of partner debentures.
Councillor Klopp.
Thank you. Going through the reserves there on page 21, waste management planning, $500,000. That's been around a while. I thought we discussed that a few years back and we're peeling that down. Or is this a different level, another management process?
Go ahead, Michael.
Yep, through yourself. Yeah, that has been peeled back to the 500,000. I believe it was over $1 million or $2 million at one point, and we dialed that back. We just kept it at 500. It's open for discussion. If we wish to reallocate that at some point, that is an option. It's not committed for anything in particular that I'm aware of. If there is a requirement in the future, we have some funds there, but again, that could be reallocated, and there's no specific need that I'm aware of at this point. So,
Councillor Klopp.
Through the chair to you, if you can answer it, was some of obviously no money was taken out, but we do have that program for people to take waste, high-end waste products to the Mid-Huron landfill site. That's a different pocket of cost. It doesn't come out of here, I guess.
Through yourself, Warden. Yeah, that's through the waste management budget. So there's about a net cost of about 160,000 in that program, and that is a separate budget that's rolled up into Public Works. But there is a separate. I think it might actually be on our statements potentially. Yeah, under if you look at the statement of operations. Under the environmental services, that 213,000, that's the gross expense for that program, and then we would have a little bit of revenue come in to offset it, so it's about 160,000.
Thank you very much.
I see Dalton has a raised hand function up. Dalton, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Mike, on the statement of operations for the social and family services line, I see it went up about 8 million from last year and exceeded budget by about 3 million as well. Is there anything specific that's driving those costs? And is it kind of like a one-time thing, or will that be reflected in the budgeting going forward?
Go ahead, Michael.
Yep. Through yourself, Warden. Yep. And I apologize. I meant to point that out. That is our childcare expansion program. So all the dollars that we were receiving for the childcare program in terms of the grant expansions or providing grants to our municipal partners, that is 100% tied in with the funding. So there'll be an offset direct. So it's a nil cost overall. So yes, it shows like it's a large increase in terms of the expense, but we actually see that in our provincial funding line as well. So it's a nil cost overall. I don't expect it to continue, but as long as those program dollars are available to support expansion, we will be seeing some of that flow through from Children's Services.
Perfect. I do have one other question as well. On the deferred revenue line, you have some funding from COVID-19. Is that probably, I'm assuming, part of the health unit?
Through yourself, Warden, that actually relates to some of the state Safe Start refund, Safe Start funding that we received back through the COVID years from the province, just to help us manage some of the COVID-related pressures. So we've got a little bit of money there still, and we're just kind of dabbling a little bit in that just to continue to support our remote work, some of the licensing there, just to ensure that we continue to have a safe workspace for some of our staff. So a little bit of usage each year, but that is COVID money that it's legacy monies from about 2020 or 2021 that we received that. So, but it is 100% Huron County money.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike? Seeing none, then we will deal with a motion when we come back out of closed session in a little bit regarding this for approval. So at this point now, we'd be looking for the audit findings report. And Matthew and Donald, I believe, are prepared to present to us. So when you're ready, fellas, go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting us to today's meeting. In terms of our presentation, I'm not sure from clerks if you want to put it up and we can advance it, or if you want to give us control. Looks like you're going to do it, so that's A-okay by us. So we'll only take a few minutes. As mentioned, my name is Matthew Goderich. I'm the lead audit partner for the audit of the financial statements of the County of Huron, and with me is Donald Harrison, who is the senior manager. If I could advance us down 4 slides to PDF 36. One more. And here we've outlined the status of our audit. As Mike quite rightly mentioned, we are really in the final stages. Need to complete a few things that are listed here, including receipt of the legal confirmation, which I don't believe we have yet, but we do expect within the next day or two. And the rest of the items we expect to complete in the next day or so. with the target of issuing the final financial statements on Friday of this week. I want to also reemphasize that the audit opinion we intend to issue is a clean audit opinion. There's no modifications or qualifications to that opinion, which is what you would expect. We'll touch on a few other things as we go through the presentation, but really I'll sort of get up in front a little bit. You're looking for a clean audit opinion. You're looking for no reported significant deficiencies of internal controls. You're also looking for what types of corrections were required to the financial statements to get here. And I'm happy to say we've got a clean bill of health on all three of those areas. And this is, if there's one takeaway that the committee can get from our presentation, it is that we've sort of got green check marks in each of those three boxes. So if we move down to the next slide, I'll touch on this, and there's another slide that sort of follows a little bit later. So as we said in our planning meeting, we are required to respond to the risk that there could be an override of internal control. We refer to this as a fraud risk, and it is the risk that there'll be intentional manipulation of the accounts by staff. We're not here talking about how the county may be a victim from outside actors. Because, especially the finance team are sort of close to the accounting records, they're in a unique position to override those controls, regardless of how good they may be. This is not unique to the county. This is something that's required for any audit of financial statements. We have specific responses to this risk, including the identification of what we refer to as high-risk journal entries. So these are entries that are made into the accounts that would be unusual, that meet certain what we refer to as high-risk criteria. And where we do find those, we do a full deep dive on those to make sure there's nothing untoward going on. Happy to say no issues identified in the performance of those procedures. Next slide, and Donald.
Thanks, Matt. So next few slides, I'll be talking about other key risk areas we focused on. We performed audit procedure over key revenue stream, including taxation, grants, and user charges. This included confirmation with lower tier municipalities for tax revenue, agreement of grant revenues for supporting documentation, and also some analytical procedure over user charges revenue. And we are happy to report there were no issues noted in these procedures. In the next slide, we focused on payroll expenditure given the size and the complexity. Our procedures included an analytical review where we compared the changes in headcount, the employee numbers, and the composition to the changes in salaries and the rates and the pay increase during the year. And also we tested accruals and vacation balances. We reviewed post-employment benefit application, and also we assessed the cutoff through testing post and disbursements, and there was no issues noted. And another area we focused on is, as outlined in the next slide, was the tangible capital assets and asset retirement obligations. For capital assets and the related obligations, we tested additions and disposals, and we focused also on the depreciation calculation. We recalculated and agreed to the management calculation. And also we reviewed assets retirement obligation to make sure that there was no significant changes and what management recorded was appropriate. I just want to make a note of the next statement we made that was in errors. There was no misstatement we identified. So I'm happy to report there was no errors noted in these procedures as well.
So on the next slide, we've got required discussions with the audit committee. Certainly we have an opportunity when we go into closed session to touch on these, but to the extent that the committee is aware of any issues with respect to fraud risks, illegal acts, wrongdoing, any natures of those, this meeting would be an appropriate time to disclose those. As we move into the next couple of slides, these will go by fairly quickly. This year, we had no issues or concerns with respect to new or revised accounting policies, so all good there. In terms of other financial reporting matters on the next slide, no issues or concerns there. Want to just remind committee, I think we spoke about this at our planning meeting, there will be a revised presentation of the financial statements, not next year, but the year after. Really is reorganizing how things are displayed, not really changing how assets or liabilities are recognized or measured. On the slide that you're on right now, we just deal with specific topics, and I would say this may look like sort of an odd laundry list of things, but these are matters that we're required to disclose to committee if we had issues or concerns. And as you can see, no matters to report on any of the items here, so this is very good news. As we move through the next handful of slides, if I can go down, say to like 3 or 4 to page 17, I guess. Yeah, there, we'll stop there. We did talk about this at our planning meeting and what some of the indicators of audit quality are. So, we take that seriously on our side to make sure our team is appropriately composed of people that have experience in the sector and know your business. And Donald and I have been involved with the audit for a number of years there. We do use a number of technology tools. We've outlined them here. These are to primarily enhance audit quality and make sure we're doing the right things at the right time. And then the last thing, this really is an item that sort of looks at staff, right? So the matters that, or the items that they provide to us so we can perform our audit, if they are provided on time, in a good quality, and they don't require a lot of follow-up, that's a significant indicator or improvement to audit quality. And happy to say there, we've got a green star, no concerns whatsoever. Staff were well prepared, provided things on time and a good quality. I'll take this moment as well to thank, Mike and the rest of his team for the cooperation that we got. We do receive excellent cooperation. That's what we would expect. So it's sort of pat on the back for doing the right thing. But really, it's important for the committee to note that we have a very good working relationship that way. As we move into the next 2 slides, or the next 1 slide, sorry, deals with independence. Just want to make sure that we reaffirm our independence as auditors and no issues or concerns there. The final bit of our presentation are some appendices, which I won't go through in detail, but we'll turn it back over to the chair for any questions or comments. And we can probably stop sharing now. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Matthew and Donald, for the presentation. I'm going to go to council if there's any questions that you would have. Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yes, thank you. We have an issue in Central Huron, and I just wanted to bring it up when the auditors were present, but it has to do with some railroad lands that were swapped when some of the county roads were switched. And there was a payment owing from the railroad company. This happened 7, 8, maybe 10 years ago. It's been on our books for a long time as accounts receivable. It's a large number and it just skews our books. And if the issue is dead in the water that we're not going to receive those dollars, at what point do we write? My question is, what point do we write off that expense as just a dead loss? And I don't know what our policies are, and I would like to know what the auditor's recommendation would be for a period of time that you keep these on your books until you actually write them off.
Matthew, please.
So I'll answer that question generically. Professional standards sort of preclude me from commenting on matters between your specific township and your auditors, so I don't want to get in trouble that way. But I would say more generically, if an entity has determined that there is not a reasonable chance of collection, and when we say reasonable in audit speak, that's almost like an 80% threshold. If you don't think it's 80% or more likely that you're going to receive an amount, I believe that receivable should be, again, what we refer to as derecognized or written off or taken off the books. I realize in some of these matters, they can be complex and there can be a significant degree of uncertainty. But if you don't think that that's the case, then I think a provision or an amount should be reported. So there's other final bit to this is sometimes entities will have the amount recorded as a receivable and then record an allowance for doubtful accounts against that. That achieves the same goal. Really, again, you've taken the amount off as a receivable because you don't think it's reasonable that you will collect it. At what point do you sort of completely remove it, write it off from the books? That's sort of up to any individual entity. If at that point, if you say really, despite all of our best efforts, there is no chance we're ever going to get that, that's the point that I would suggest you would completely write it off because you don't really need to track it any further. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So any other questions for Matthew and Donald from council? Not seeing any more, so thank you for that presentation as well. And we will deal with a recommended motion when we come back out of our closed session regarding this as well. So at this point, I'm going to suggest that we go into a closed session and be looking for a motion to do that. So that's Councillor Finch and Past Warden McClellan. Those in favor? That is carried. So to report out of our closed session, Council received information from KPMG LLP Chartered Accountants on our audited financial statements. And we do have a couple of motions to address. The first would be a motion to approve the draft consolidated financial statements that were presented to us. And that's Councillor Vanstone, Past Warden McNeil, seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. And also a motion I'd be looking for to approve the Corporation of the County's audited findings report. And that's Councillor McClellan, seconded by Councillor Heffer. Those in favor? That is carried. So I just want to say a thank you to Mike and to staff for all the work that you do to provide us with a clean audit process. And also Dalton as our community rep, thanks for joining us. And Matthew and Donald, appreciate the work you do on our behalf with KPMG, and thank you for joining us today. So with that, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn our audit committee meeting. Councillor Anderson, Councillor Harding, those in favor? That is carried. So now we are going to get into our regular council session, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. And starting off, looking for approval of our agenda. Councillor Bazinet, seconded by Councillor Klopp. Those in favor? That is carried. Is there any pecuniary interest to declare at this time? I do not see any, so we'll go on to the minutes of our previous meeting. Is there any discussion on the minutes, or I'd be looking for a motion to adopt those minutes? So Councillor Bazinet, Past Warden McNeil, those in favor? That is carried. Under delegations, we do have Gracie Hogarth with us this morning, representing the Huron County Plowmen's Association. So Gracie, come up and join us. And you do have some slides for us, and when you're ready, you go ahead.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for inviting me, Warden and members of council. I'm really excited to be here today. So my name is Gracie Hogarth, and I'm here representing the Huron County Plowmen's Association. Go next slide. So a little bit about me. I am the 2025-2026 Huron County Queen of the Furrow. So I'm from Clinton. This was my second time running for Queen. I ran again in 2024. I got runner-up, and then I ran again in 2025 and won. So I'm 20 years old. I'm the daughter to Chris and Karen Hogarth, and I went to St. Anne's Catholic Secondary School, and I currently work for Hydro One. I have an electrical apprenticeship there. So the 2025 plowing match, it was hosted just outside of Seaforth. And it was hosted by Dodd Century Farms. So it was August 14th and 15th. There's 11 plowing classes. The Princess competition was on August 14th, and then the Queen competition was the 15th. So a little bit about the competition is you have to do an interview with the panel of judges. And then you have to do like a 2-minute speech, I believe. And then plow a little plot of land, and then impromptu questions. Yeah, next slide, please. So some of the events that I went to this year, I was at the Seaforth Fall Fair, the Threshers in Blythe, the Mitchell Fall Fair, the International Plowing Match, and then the OPA Convention. Next slide. And then this year I went to quite a few Santa Claus parades. I really enjoy going to those, getting out into the community. And instead of sitting on the float, I always rather hand out candy and interact with everyone. It's a good way of, meeting a lot of people from your community. Next slide, please. So the 2026 plowing match this year is in Morris Turnberry, and it is hosted by the Underwood family along with the warden. Thank you. And yeah, it's August 20th and 21st, and I hope to see some of your faces out there. It'll be a really good event. Next slide. So the International Plowing Match is in Walkerton this year. It is September 22nd to the 26th. So what to expect there? There's going to be a whole lot of plowing going on. The Ontario Queen of the Furrow competition, where I will be competing to hopefully gain the Ontario title and bring that back to Huron County, which would be lovely. And then there's lots of vendors and exhibits there, daily events, and then normally the Canadian Cowgirls and Ram Rodeo, they put on a pretty good show as well. And next slide. Oh, and before I finish this off, I just wanted to say, if any of you guys have any, young ladies in your life, really encourage them to run for Princess or Queen of the Furrow. So the Princess competition is for girls aged from 12 to 16. And then the Queen competition is for 17 to 26. It's really lovely, like getting out in the community, and you meet so many new people, and it really advances you in your career if you so choose. If you're trying to get into agriculture, you just get so many new good connections. I really encourage anyone to run, and it really builds your confidence with interview skills, public speaking, and coming to these kind of events. So yeah, any questions for anyone?
Thank you, Gracie. Going to council, if there's any questions for Gracie. Go ahead, Past Warden Ginn.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. My time involved with plowing matches, always impressed by the quality of the competitors for both the Princess and the Queen. Well-spoken. It's kind of intimidating when you go there and there's 12 contestants and they can all speak better than I can. But the fact that you can win that competition speaks highly of you. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So Gracie, appreciate you coming and sharing with us, and thank you for representing Huron County through the Plowmen's Association, and look forward to seeing you in Turnberry Township.
Yeah. Thank you all again. Have a great day.
Thank you. Could I have someone to receive Gracie's presentation? And that's Councillor Noel, Councillor Becker. Those in favor? That is carried. And Jeff Horseman is on deck to present an award. So Jennifer, you come up as well. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to represent paramedic Jennifer Randall with the 2025 EMS Exemplary Service Medal. Just a little bit. So Jen was recognized with the EMS Exemplary Service Medal for her work and dedication to the community and years of service within the pre-hospital care industry at the Ontario Association of Paramedic Chiefs Award Gala in London on September 25th, 2025. The Exemplary Service Medal recognizes those persons in high-risk professions who have dedicated themselves to preserving Canada's public safety through a combination of dedicated service and exemplary service to both the industry and to their community. This is a national honor This national honor is awarded by the Governor General of Canada in recognition of professionals in the pre-hospital industry who have performed their duties in an exemplary medal. The EMS Exemplary Medal is not a long service medal, but a commendable service award with a long service requirement. The recipient must have performed a minimum of 20 years in EMS, of which 10 years must be served in a frontline capacity in a position of risk. In addition to the recipient has provided dedication and involvement to the betterment of their community and the EMS industry. As I said, paramedic Jen Randall received her temporary medal in London in September. However, the permanent medal, her own personalized permanent medal, did not arrive until just a few short weeks ago. So we'd like to formally recognize her. And if Jen, if you can come forward, and Mr. Warden and Madam CEO, if you can come for a picture, please.
So Jennifer, thank you for all that you do in Huron County, and congratulations on a well-deserved recognition for that. I'm going to go to councillor comments. Is there anybody? Past Warden McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I apologize if this information has come back. Maybe I missed it with a meeting that I wasn't here, but I had inquired through Public Works about getting information from the province on their road paint testing program to see if there was any better product out there or different costs. And I don't recall anything coming back at this time.
Andrew, I'll deflect that one to you.
We don't have anything formally at this time, but we can certainly bring back a report. Yeah, provide that information.
Any other councillor comments? Past Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. And I did want to share that on Monday of this week, I attended a Catalyst for Change event in Toronto that recognized a Catalyst for Change Leadership Award for James Scaniak from Bruce Power. This was the inaugural award, and it was cited of his contribution to cancer care, and especially for children, through the medical, isotope, and energy security. James recognized and really appreciated the elected officials that were in attendance, that included the Warden of Grey County, Chris Peabody and Mark Getz from Bruce County, Mayor Ginn, Mayor Bazinet, and myself were there also. And I felt it was important to attend because not only in recognition of James' contribution to society and to cancer treatment, however, when the county approached Bruce Power, and specifically James, as it was cited in our financial report, for $1 million for the Gibbon Street project, they agreed to that. And they're very supportive of that. And I felt it was very important to be in attendance, and I did want to share that with everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Past Warden. Anything else under councillor comments? Okay, we will move on to our consent agenda. Is there anything specific on that consent agenda that anybody wants to speak to? And if not, I'd be looking for motion to receive the consent agenda. That's Councillor Finch, Councillor Heffer. Those in favor? That is carried. Under Social and Property Services, we have the Annual Housing and Homelessness Report. And Jamie, come on up and you're going to present to us. So when you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. Through you, Warden Heffer, the 2025 Housing and Homelessness Annual Report provides a high-level snapshot of some of the work completed over the last year and fulfills the county's reporting requirements under the Housing Services Act. So I'll take a few minutes today to highlight some accomplishments across homelessness prevention, supportive and transitional housing, housing benefits, new housing development, and data collection. The most cost-effective way to address housing instability is to stop it before it becomes a crisis. So through some homelessness prevention initiatives, 42 households were able to maintain their housing and avoid becoming homeless altogether. Our Bridge Housing Instability Program is designed to provide a short-term, high-support environment that helps people move from homelessness into permanent housing. In partnership with CMHA here in Perth, we supported 165 individuals this year through this program. The program plays an important role in helping people stabilize and take next steps. Our transitional housing programs also continue to play an important role. Huron Turning Point residents provided a safe and supportive space for 8 individuals as they work towards securing permanent housing. And the Intensive Supportive Housing Program provided a therapeutic program with a supportive housing component to 6 households who were at risk of or experiencing homelessness. Housing benefits are a vital tool in helping households afford housing in the private market. In 2025, the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit assisted 20 households with their rental costs, while the local Homelessness Housing Allowance Program supported an additional 12 households. These portable benefits help bridge the gap between income and market rents, allowing people to remain housed in their communities. We proudly celebrated the completion of the Gibbon Street building, our 3rd new development since 2022. This project offers 40 units, including 10 supported units, all built to high efficiency standards. This was a true community effort involving all levels of government, local partners, and community contributors. To better understand and respond to homelessness in our community, we continue to utilize tools such as the by name list, which allows us to track homelessness in real time and measure outcomes. During the past year, 74 individuals exited homelessness, with the majority moving into permanent housing after experiencing chronic homelessness. In addition to our homelessness services, the Housing and Property Services team continues to manage 415 rent geared to income units and 95 affordable housing units across the county. Last year, these teams successfully housed 72 households. And we recognize that none of this work happens in isolation. The progress we continue to make is only possible because of the strong partnerships we have with community agencies, government partners, and our community. We are proud of the work that we have completed to date and recognize that our collective work is ongoing. To help guide our next steps, the new 10-year Housing and Homelessness Plan has been developed and will be presented to County Council at the July 2nd meeting. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jamie. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to Jamie. Jamie, there was one part of the report, and I'm sorry, I can't remember where it was in there, but you talked about people that we got off of homelessness, got them into housing, and then there was a number of those people that ended up back homeless again. Now, I truly believe everybody that works on these programs cares deeply and would love to solve the entire problem. So is it a lack of funding, or is it mental instability? What causes people that we've managed to find housing for to go back into where they started, I guess?
Go ahead, Jamie.
Through you, Warden. Yes, I would say it's absolutely a lack of funding. We try to assist our population where they're at. One solution might work for one individual, but might not work for the next. While we do try and celebrate the wins, sometimes additional support is needed. Some of our population struggle with making the transition from homelessness into being housed again, and that can be a struggle for them. So, for as much as we don't want to see them coming back into homelessness or experiencing homelessness again, we are there with the supports that we can offer, knowing though that our funding is limited and we are limited on our resources that we can apply.
Follow up.
Yeah, just one more thing. Really happy to hear the report. I think you said it was 42 families that you were able to prevent them becoming homeless. Certainly that workshop that we had by Van Aster there, that was a big learning lesson that it's the most cost effective as far as the county's concerned. And if you can stop those right off the bat, it can just, you may never see those people on the program again. So kudos to that.
Any other questions? Councillor Bazinet, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, there are positive outcomes. You shared it with the 42 families, and unfortunately, we don't hear enough about the positive. Is there a way that we can hear more about the positive? Is there a way of sharing those stories with obviously people's consent? But I would really like to see those stories shared more, because when you're open and transparent about maybe your struggles and difficulties, and you've been able to maneuver through those difficulties, it's a wonderful impact story for people to hear. And maybe some of those people that are struggling with the same issues will read those stories, see those stories, and realize there is a possibility of a positive outcome.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Through you, Warden Heffer. So yes, Trevor, I agree that the success stories is why we're in this, right? The annual report card is a mechanism for us to do that. I would also say that perhaps we can update our monthly share outs. I believe everyone on council receives the monthly homelessness share out. So perhaps that's an opportunity for us to share some success stories there as well.
Past Warden again.
Yeah, thank you. My question is about the Gibbon Street project, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm of the belief that our goal was to have 24-hour support for the 10 units on one floor, and that the rest would be rent geared to income. So that's not happening, though. We don't have the 24-hour support there. Is that correct?
So through your Warden Heffer. So the application for 24-hour supports is the application to Ontario Health for the supportive housing. We have yet to hear back from Ontario Health for that. So we made a bit of a shift. We entered into some head leases with our community partners, and those community partners offer supports within their existing portfolios to those 10 units. And just as clarification, all of the supported units are not on one floor. They are scattered throughout the building. Yep. And yes, the supports that those community partners offer are being offered to our individuals in those supported units at Gibbon Street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't have a question. I just have a comment, because this week the Accessibility Advisory Committee had an opportunity to have our meeting at the Gibbon Street property, and we had a tour. We met some of the residents. It was an absolutely amazing opportunity for us to learn more about what's going on in the building and talk to some folks who are coming in and out. It was a really great experience. So thank you for doing everything you do.
Thank you, Councillor Noel. And I'm just going to add to that, because I was going to speak to this. The excitement, one of the residents had opened her apartment up, and the excitement for her to have that space that she can call home. Pretty heartwarming to see that. So good work. Okay. If there's no further questions, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive this report. Past Warden again, Councillor Finch, those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Jamie. Cheryl joining us virtually. Okay, so early learning child care funding for North Huron project, and Cheryl is joining us virtually. And welcome, Cheryl. Cheryl is here for any questions, if there would be any, regarding this funding. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I certainly agree with this program, and I want to see it go ahead, but I'm a little confused, because I thought when we got the first report that it was in there that it was 100% funded by the province to get the construction done. Am I incorrect about that? I thought that's the way it was going to be.
Cheryl.
Thank you, through you, Warden. So the funding that we receive is 100% provincially funded through the ministry, but we can allocate it to projects as they need. The bid that North Huron received was actually higher than what they had originally budgeted for. So there was a previous report where we were covering majority of construction costs, but when they actually went for tender, the cost came in a bit higher. So now we're trying to supplement that with additional ministry funding that we received in 2026, just to help offset those costs that they would face. They do have some reserves that they're looking to use if they're required to, but we are hoping to fund it through those ministry dollars.
Yeah. So what is the total contribution towards the construction that the county is putting forward?
Sure. So through you, Warden, the total contribution to date, so prior to this 800,000, we've contributed $1,234,000. With the additional 800, it would be $2,034,000, which is still just slightly under the total construction cost for the building.
Pat, CAO work, please.
Yeah, and just through you, Mr. Warden, point of clarifications, these are not county dollars, these are provincial dollars.
I appreciate that clarification, except for the fact that if we didn't use them for the construction, we would have used them for other programs in the county, because when the province gives us the money, we have the ability to shift them around to where we want to use them in programs. Is that correct?
Through the Warden, the funds that we are receiving are specifically for construction of new spaces. So unless there's a project that's able to be completed by December 31st, 2026, the funds are returned to the Ministry of Education. So the dollars that we received are just to ensure that we meet the deadline of December 31st for the construction projects within Huron County to increase childcare spaces. Should the spaces not be completed by December 31st, or if we don't have anywhere to allocate them for the growth according to our targeted growth plan, those dollars would then be returned to the Ministry of Education.
Thank you for that clarification.
Pass Warden again.
Yeah, this might have been answered, but the 800,000, I just wondering where that's coming from. That's provincial dollars as well?
Yeah, so through the Warden, because we had some growth projects that we sent a report to the ministry that kind of indicated the costs and where they're at and the tight deadlines, we did receive funding through the ministry that was specifically just to see that those projects get completed by the end of December 31st, 2026, because they have to report back to the federal government about how many spaces within the province we've created. So yes, they were specific for growth from Ministry of Ed.
Any other questions? Seeing none, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive this report and approve the support. It's Councillor Klopp. Councillor McClellan is seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you for joining us to answer those questions, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda is emergency services, and Jeff is going to present the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Today, I would just like to spend probably about 10 minutes to go through the change in dispatch software dispatching program that is coming to our provincially run dispatch center in London. And I just need council to be aware of what it looks like, what the current state looks like, and what the future state's going to look like, so that everybody is aware of the changes. So this is the implementation of the medical priority dispatch system, which is a totally new software to Ontario. So Labita, if we can go to the next slide, please. So today, again, just want to review what the current system is and what and why it requires modernization, to update you on the implementation of the MPDS system and what to expect in changes, and then what those implications will be from the changes in the future. Next slide. So currently, when someone in Huron County calls 911, our call answer, our 911 center answers the call, and that's Northern Communications currently. If they ask for an ambulance at that point, the call is then transferred to the London Central Ambulance Communications Center, which is operated directly by the province. London CAC will then take the information, prioritize the urgency of the call, assign it to the closest paramedic unit, regardless, and then the paramedics will respond. They will complete their treatment, assessment treatment, and they will transport to the appropriate hospital, generally the closest hospital, unless the hospital's closed or it's on some other type of bypass that's been approved by the province. When they arrive at the hospital, they're triaged, and we could be on offload. We could offload the patient. We could be on offload delay, whatever the case may be. Once they've cleared the hospital, then CAC, the dispatch center, assigns them to wherever is required under our deployment plan in the county for area coverage, etc., until the next call is given out. Next slide. So the challenges with this system, it's called DCPI-2. The challenges with this system is that it over prioritizes our calls for service. In other words, 90% roughly of the calls that come into the dispatch center for paramedic services from the public are prioritized as emergency, life and limb, and we are sent out with our lights and siren on. Okay. And you can look, if you look at my monthly reports in the consent agenda and look at those CTAS 1 returns, it's a very small percentage of our call volume that is actually an emergency return call, life and limb call. Okay, so that's the biggest downfall to this system. It has a limited ability to differentiate based on the information given to the dispatcher what is truly a life-threatening emergency and what is not. Okay, so most of the time it is the paramedics are sent out lights and siren. So this impacts our ability to maintain our own response time targets. That's either in the categories that are set by the province in those categories, or in the categories that we set here at County Council in those categories. Because of the over prioritization, we're sent out, we are sent out to a call that we're expecting the worst, and it's not really the worst, and therefore it throws off all of our response times. It also has a lot of operational pressures as we near the end of the paramedic shift, and as you're getting into hour 10, hour 11 of their shift, the average call in their own community, where the community has a hospital, still takes about an hour or more for a paramedic to complete. So if they're getting a call that is over prioritized an hour before the end of the shift, you are then forcing them into overtime regardless. There's no way around that in the current system. As I said, the dispatchers in the center have a lack of diagnostic and triaging tools, and that's what leads to over prioritizing. They typically are only able to prioritize 2 calls that are what we call scene calls, where the paramedics are responding to a residence or somewhere within the community. So they're either lights and sirens, which is considered code 4, or without lights and sirens, which is considered code 3. Okay, and like I said, right now, over 80% of the dispatch calls are coming in as a code 4 call to the paramedics. Okay, the problem with this is that legislatively, under the current system, a paramedic that is assigned to a code 4 call cannot be rerouted or reprioritized off that call to another call. So, and that doesn't matter where the call originates from. So the biggest frustration for us in the industry right now, under the current system, as an example is, I'm not using this facility by any means other than this first facility that comes into mind, but let's say there is a transfer that needs to go out of Goderich Hospital to London. Okay, it's an emergency transfer. We're going for whatever the case may be. It's prioritized as a life and limb call. The dispatch will send the closest crew, lights and siren, to the hospital. So keep in mind that patient is in a stable environment with highly trained medical staff. Okay. But the paramedics are sent there, code 4, lights and sirens. They cannot be diverted to any other call. So if there was a cardiac arrest that came in, let's say at the YMCA, that crew is committed to the hospital. They cannot be rerouted to the YMCA. So that means the next closest crew is sent. And if that crew happens to be Bayfield or Clinton from their base, that's where the response time issue comes in. So it's the same situation where we're dispatched to what could be a life and limb call in the community. Let's say somebody's having a chest pain, and en route to that call, we come across a car accident. They cannot stop at the car accident. They are committed to the other call. This is one of the major liabilities and problems within the current system. Okay, so just understand that. So if we can go to the next slide. The new system that's coming in is called MPDS. This is a worldwide system used extensively in Europe, many more countries that are further ahead in the pre-hospital industry than Canada is. Several provinces in Canada already use this system. Unfortunately, we're one of the last provinces to move to this system. Okay. It attempts to get the right resource to the right person or the right patient for the right level of care that they require at the right time. So it gives the dispatchers more ability, more information to make the appropriate decision. So you'll see it started to be, and this is not where it's been implemented, all of the implementation, but you can see there's several dispatch centers across the province that have already surpassed that implementation date, and it's already running in certain parts of the province. The next one to go is Windsor. Windsor CAC is going in September, and our just so you know, our implementation for London CAC is in October of this year. Okay, so the key parts to this is that it gives appropriate triage to the 911 responses, which will in turn reduce the number of lights and siren code 4 or high priority calls that the dispatch has to send the paramedics on. So we expect somewhere around a 30% drop, not in call volume, but drop in being dispatched as an emergency life and limb call once this system is implemented. Okay. It has medical director oversight. So every single dispatch center has a physician that has medical oversight within the dispatch center. Okay. It helps us maintain the response time performance, as paramedics are, in fact, now allowed to be diverted to a higher call, a closer call, or more appropriate call, even after they've been dispatched. Okay. What it does do, though, is it potentially increases patient wait times for paramedic response to the lower acuity calls. So if you are calling 911 as an example and answer the questions and we determine that you're, let's say, generally unwell. So there's no defined reason that you're calling an ambulance, but you're just not feeling well. Maybe, sick, nausea, vomiting, whatever the case may be. You, in fact, may not see an ambulance for a longer period of time. Where today, you'd probably be dispatched an ambulance and you'd see in Huron County, on average, you'd see that ambulance within 8 minutes. Okay. You might be waiting 2 or 3 hours under the new system if we're busy for that same reason. Okay. It also improves management of the paramedic workload and end of shift overtime. So again, decrease the number of times that we're sent on a high priority towards the end of shift, better triaging so we can make a decision. You know what? That patient, likely not an emergency based on all the information that's been given. Instead of dispatching this truck that's 15 minutes from being off shift, we could either wait till the oncoming shift arrives. We can send the next closest unit or a unit from a different area that is not towards the end of their shift. Okay, so it allows some of us some more flexibility. Next slide, please. So again, just the current models on the left, you have a code 4, code 3 response. Code 4 means that they are sent with lights and sirens. Code 3 means that they're sent promptly, but they don't utilize their lights and sirens on the way to the call. Under the new MPDS system, there's actually 5 different responses, 5 emergency type or patient type responses. There's another response that's not listed there. So purple, that goes to a color system. The purple response is emergent and immediately life-threatening. So those will be what we consider in the industry to be patients that require resuscitation. Okay, so they're close to, it's a severe life-threatening emergency. Okay, they'll be dispatched lights and sirens. Okay, red, those are emergent and potentially life-threatening. Those will be your chest pains, your potential strokes. So they may not require resuscitation, but we know they're an immediate threat to the patient's health. Okay, those will still be with lights and sirens. Okay, then we start getting into more options where the calls can be delayed based on the triaging that's occurring at the dispatch center. So orange, yellow, and green. So, and those have associated delays that are set based on our resources, based on patient condition that is being given to the dispatcher. Okay, so it allows the dispatch center and the local paramedic service more flexibility to manage their resources appropriately. If you can, next slide, please. So it has 5 models ranging from immediate lights and sirens response to the lower acuity calls, which are more flexible response based on our own deployment plans in Huron County and our resource availability. It does require a robust questioning pathway. So there's more than 40 problem types when they start answering questions when they call 911. There's more than 40 types. And of those 40 types, depending on the answer that they give, there's subsequent questions. There is over 1,400 different pathways based on the questions in the triaging tool in the new dispatch model. Okay. It's going to mean that the person calling the ambulance, calling for the paramedic service, depending on how they answer the questions, could actually be on the dispatching line for up to 5 minutes answering questions. The further it goes, the less and less and less chance that it's a serious emergency, so they can spend more time trying to nail down what's really going wrong, what the patient complaint is. The whole system is frequently reviewed and updated through a process that the province has set up with the medical directors. They have many more diagnostic triaging tools that are built into the system. And again, those are updated regularly. The dispatchers also have pre-arrival and post-dispatch instructions for every call, very detailed life-saving instruction for critical calls. Recently, a few years ago, they started giving instructions on how to perform CPR if the person on the call accepts that they will perform CPR. But these are very scripted, and they cover a wide range of different potential life-threatening injuries that they could help provide care prior to the paramedics, fire response, police response being there. The key about this is, of all these triaging models, the province is starting to develop what they're calling secondary triage protocols, which in turn down the road, a few years out, will mean that some of these patients will be completely diverted from a paramedic response, and they will be told to call a specific resource. They may be told that you can call your family physician or your primary healthcare provider. The goal for a lot of our services out there is that the province may actually incorporate the CP or the community paramedicine model into this under a secondary triaging program, so that they could advise the patient that's on the phone, you don't require immediate paramedic response, but we can have a CP, a community paramedic, come see you within 4 hours or 6 hours, and then they can go out and assess at that point. And that would be based on the local paramedic service resources for their CP program. That's probably about 3 years or 4 years down the road, but that's where the province is moving with this model. Okay. Next slide. So the expected outcomes, again, just better call prioritization to the critical patients who are in most need of help, optimizes system optimization to allow more efficient use of our resources, It will reduce the cross-border calls within the surrounding municipalities. So purple and red calls are still the closest ambulance, although they can be diverted. So if they're on a red and there's a purple come in that they're closer to, they would be diverted to the purple. Okay. So where, we're covering Bruce County, some of Bruce County's area, or Lambton or Middlesex is coming some of our area. If it's a red or a purple and they're still the closest car, or we're still the closest car, we will still be dispatched to those. But those other categories, unless we have an agreement with those counties, or we tell those counties that they can come into our area, they will not be dispatched until we have the resources available, or until we exceed the provincially set response time requirement. Okay. And some of those are like 6 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. So like a very bottom code, a green, I think it's 4 hours before they have to commit a resource to it. Okay. So we have lots of flexibility. It will allow balanced workloads, hopefully will help us reduce overtime at end of shift for paramedics, make sure that our paramedics get their lunch breaks on the busy days, et cetera, where we currently have operational issues. Public safety, it reduces the need for paramedics to drive lights and sirens so much, which was obviously a lot safer for both us from a risk management perspective as a county, but also for the public on the road, right? And the dispatch algorithms are regularly updated and reviewed with the medical director oversight. Okay. Next slide. So what this is going to require, though, is that we are going to have to work with our county communication and our member municipalities communication, because we are going to start to notify the public of the change. Okay, because they're, day one, they expect an ambulance in under 8 minutes, and all of a sudden they're not getting an ambulance for 2 hours. That's going to cause some issues, right? Or could cause some issues. We're looking at a multi-channel outreach, including social media, normal media, digital and print communications. And if we see a large enough need, we may actually host public forums where we can come in, present a PowerPoint similar to this, and have the discussion with the public if need be. Okay. Next slide is the timelines. We were notified of London Dispatch's change back in September of 2025. We started working directly in February of this year. We met with Dispatch and we started talking to our stakeholders, police, fire, our normal stakeholders. Right now in June, July, we're finalizing our deployment plan with Dispatch. We're finalizing the tiered response plans with fire departments and talking to any other stakeholders that we need to talk to. August, we'll be starting our communication strategy, and we will go to public communication starting around September. So we're about 6 weeks ahead of when the implementation will occur. We'll be communicating out to the public. Our go live date is October 14th, I believe. So I believe that's a Wednesday right after Thanksgiving, if memory serves. And then in December, after it's been up and running for a couple months, there will be a complete review between us and the province on how the system is working and if there's any changes that need to occur. Okay. So just to summarize my last slide, and then I'll take any questions. Changes, again, the priority response will be reserved for the most urgent calls. Non-urgent conditions can wait longer depending on our resource allocation and how busy a day we are at the time. There's more detailed questioning by the call takers, so larger, robust triaging tools. And the mitigation that we are going to entail, or what we're going to have to take, is a public awareness campaign ahead of time. And to continue to ensure public that the dispatching and the triaging tools have medical oversight and they actually work. So although they may not get an ambulance as quickly as they're expecting it, that they may not have needed it in the time frame of their expectations. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
Councillor Basnet, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. Thanks, Jeff, for the report. A lot of important information there and a lot of changes. My concern is the communication piece and how are we properly going to communicate this, and how do you manage it? I guess that's my concern, because there's going to be a lot of questions and concerns from the public. And how do we manage these questions? How do we answer these questions? And I'm curious if, in regards to the public consultation, it's always good to get out in the public for obvious reasons. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for delegations to come to all the lower tier municipalities that are in this room. So the councils of the 9 lower tiers know about it. And then is there going to be a communication piece put together where if I'm receiving a question or Mayor Ginn, for example, receives a question, how do we answer it properly, or who do we direct the questions to so they're answered properly? Because there's a lot of information here.
Jeff. Certainly. And through the warden, yes, that's definitely our goal. We are more than happy to either myself or one of the members of my senior management can come out to do any of the member municipalities, do a presentation, make sure that you're familiar with it. Your fire chiefs have already had some communication with us, had been in some discussion. They may or may not have been in discussion with changes that are required with their tiered response plans. But definitely it is a full communication plan that we will work on in consultation with the Provincial Dispatch Center so that we can get that out. Most of the questions, because they're probably going to come back with some questions about delay in service or what is perceived to delay in service, there will be a pathway that we will set out for everybody that will make its way back to probably to us within our department to address those issues. So,
Councillor Noel.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I have kind of a related question to Councillor Bazinet's question. So if Toronto and Niagara have been using this system for 20 years, and if it seems to be a superior system than the one we're currently using for all the reasons that you've stated, I don't understand what has taken this long for the province. And the second statement I guess I have to make is I don't understand why they're not rolling this out provincially for everyone for that communication piece so that everyone can understand what's happening and why it's happening. I don't know if you have any insight into those, sort of questions I have, but if you do, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through the warden. Can't really comment on the first part. The dispatch system is a provincially run system, 100% funded directly to those centers. So there's a few different types of dispatch models out there. Toronto, in fact, runs their own dispatch center, but is funded by the province. Niagara, same thing, is funded by the province. So they were able to move this system along on their own, but the ministry had paid for it. There are what we call transfer payment dispatch centers out there as well. So a center like Timmins, as an example, is not directly run by the province, but is funded by the province to a private, we'll call it a private entity up there. It happens to be their police dispatch center that runs it. But most of the province is still run directly by provincially operated dispatch centers, ours included. It is the same question that myself as chief and our association has been asking since, as you suggest, 15, 20 years as to why we're not moving to this system and why it is taking, this long. I can tell you that the initial implementation, when they did announce they were moving to MPDS, the initial implementation schedule was well over 5 years to do the entire province. They through a lot of lobbying with the association and a lot of pushback that they were getting, they did agree about 12 months, 18 months ago to accelerate that plan. So it is a lot quicker. We're actually going to be onboarded about a year and a half earlier than we were going to be. So it is going to be fast. It is faster. But as far as how come it's taken that long, I can't answer that on behalf of the province. With respect to provincial communication, there is a small amount of communication that they're making available to the individual services to go forward with, and we will utilize that information. But in talking with other chiefs in areas that have gone live already, a lot of that is putting their own plan together and just using what the province has given us. There's no provincial-wide campaign that they put out there. There's some information to utilize, but that's been it.
McClellan, Finch, and then Klopp.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Jeff, really good report and good background about why and how we're getting to where we are now. One comment about the old system, in fairness to the dispatch people, I suspect 80% of the people that once they phone 911, for them, it's life and death, and they're going to come across that way. With the new system, and as much as I appreciate all of the things that they're doing, I can't imagine the outrage from the public, what it would be if you ever drove past an accident and didn't take the time to stop. But I guess my concern is this, is that if in fact an ambulance crew had received a call, it wasn't life-threatening at that point. But if you came across an accident that literally had just happened and maybe someone hadn't even phoned 911 at that point, do the crew have the ability to contact dispatch on their own and say, we've come across something, we should be stopping here, this looks serious?
Yeah, so through the warden, sorry. Yes, very much so. So immediately, regardless, if we see an accident, if we drive by an accident, regardless of the situation, the paramedic will, if they know that nobody has been dispatched to that already, they will radio back to the dispatch center with the location. I can tell you that I have had, in my own experience on the road as a paramedic, and I do have staff that have done the same thing. If we are being sent to a call and we come across an accident, depending on what the initial call information was given to us, we will take it upon ourselves to stop at the accident and at least assess while they're starting another unit. It's not, I don't want to get out into the public to say, that a paramedic crew would not stop and just continue to drive by. That may happen in a very minuscule chance, depending on the information they have. But by the way the legislation is written, technically, they should not be rerouted to that accident. So by them stopping, we're going out on a limb a little bit, assessing. Maybe they stay there and dispatch sends another crew to the other call. It's kind of in the heat of the moment that actually occurs. But yes, we make sure that everything that we see on the road is reported back, unless we know that there's actually a resource that's being sent there. So.
Okay. Just one last thing. I appreciate the questions that the dispatchers will now be asking to determine the severity. And I suspect the first 2 or 3 questions are going to determine whether it's life-threatening right off the bat. But the unfortunate part is still the person that's making the 911 call. It's a lot more of an issue for them than it is the professional that's been down this road a whole bunch of times. That communication to the public is going to be so intense to get them to understand that we're not delaying the entire process. We're just trying to make an evaluation. And how well trained are our dispatchers to calm the person down on the phone that we're going to take care of this, but unfortunately, you're not at the top of the list right now because it's a broken arm or something else. That's going to be an awkward situation for those dispatchers.
Yeah. Through the warden, yes, it will be. They do have an extensive training background. They spend a lot of time classroom scenario based, and then they spend a lot of time, as they call it, on the board with another dispatcher sitting beside them, right? So it will be a process of reassuring them that a paramedic has been dispatched. Depending on where they are in the questioning, it could be that there is a paramedic that's already been sent. There are some things that can be said to the individual on the phone. But yeah, it's going to be difficult to say, bluntly, I'm sorry it's a broken arm, but we're really busy right now. It's going to be an hour, it's going to be 2 hours before we have somebody there. But that's where we're seeing some of the complaints across the province right now, because the expectation of the public versus resources available don't match up right now, right? So it is a little bit of a different system. On a normal day in Huron County, this is not going to happen very often. We will have a resource somewhere. They may just be waiting for 20 minutes or 30 minutes as opposed to waiting for 5 or 8 minutes. But there are those days where we are, you see when we hit code yellows, or where we're down to 1 or 2 trucks, that they will be starting to wait. It's the same information that we've been giving your fire chiefs. Now, when the firefighters are calling for an ambulance, they get on scene and they're calling for an ambulance for some other reason. Maybe they've been dispatched to a fire and they don't have one of our resources there because we're busy, and one of the firefighters got hurt, as an example. They are being told right now, expect that you will be on the phone with the dispatcher up to 5 minutes, right? So you need specific information that you are going to, the more information we give, or that they are able to give, the better the chances of getting the resource there at the proper time. We can't force the public to have any information, and we see it currently. They'll start the phone call, they'll get so far into the phone call and they'll hang up. I see it on the board all the time. Okay. That doesn't mean the resource isn't sent, right? It just, at some point, the public does get frustrated with the system. So, yeah.
Councillor Finch.
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden. Great presentation, Jeff. Well done. Obviously this new system will help deploy our resources where they're needed rather than where they could be needed, right? Which I like. Is there any impact to our stroke bypass policy where if there's a person having a stroke, they bypass the nearest hospital, they continue on?
No, through the warden, there's absolutely no change in any of our bypass or provincial protocols at this point. So STEMI bypass, stroke bypass, everything like that is continuing as normal. Yeah.
Councillor Klopp.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Noel picked up on that one point, that it's been around for a long time. And in fairness, you answered as best you could. It sounds like it's a lot of politics is slowing it up, but or private companies or whatever. But just clarification here, you said 80% of the calls are maybe not so life-threatening. You have the 5, there's 5 things, color code there. Maybe you want to go back to that slide. But is this above and beyond what is done? Because I thought I heard you say this, that part of the problem is, you'd be going to a hospital to pick up a patient to go maybe go to whatever. And this will help clarify that. So I'm confused here. Is this strictly a person picking up the phone, or is this also then going to be in the issue of hospitals calling for ambulances, setting up times? Is there a difference, or is this part of this now process?
Through the warden. So very good question. So the 5 color codes that you saw on the board are for public calling for 911 now. Okay. The hospital calls now, there is a completely separate protocol for hospital triaging and hospital dispatching of our resources now. When this is implemented, obviously, we will no longer ever be sent to a hospital with lights and sirens on to pick up a patient at a hospital. They will be prioritized. They will be given a time, and yes, they could still be a life-threatening call, but it will change the fact that the paramedic will be able to be dispatched to a community call prior to that hospital call, okay? Which we currently can't do. The hospital call right now is, if they call first, they are still the priority over the community individual.
Follow up, Councillor Klopp.
So, and in fairness, I might have not asked the question properly. So it is going to be a change at the hospital process as part of this.
That's correct.
So would it be safe to say that majority of those, if you had 5 up there, the 2 bottom ones were, it might not be that important, or it has to happen, that'll be the area that they'll be dealing with then?
Yeah, so
Two color codes?
yeah, so those are based on the communities. Those are based on community calls. So we may be dispatched to the hospital above a community call if the community call is a low priority or non-emergent call.
And to wrap up, sir, if I may,
Wrap it up.
I'm going back, I guess, to another counselor's comment about, well, okay, the person's picking up the phone, and I appreciate how you brought up scenarios here, but most people call the ambulance, it's for an emergency. I don't think very many, 80% is a number. I can't imagine too many people calling and going, I'd like an ambulance. My brother's complaining about his finger's sore. I appreciate that should be cleared up. So we will see how this goes. But the other thing is with it, and when it's on the side of the road issue, having had one experience and one is too many, it's what do you need? Fire, ambulance, and police. And basically, from what I was personally saw, it was the person said, we're sending all three. I sure as heck didn't want to be in a position there to go, well, the person's in the car. He looks okay, I guess. Well, and then it's, well, we're not sending the ambulance for a while. It's going to be interesting how this plays. But back to Councillor Noel, who brought it up, this has been going on for a number of years, for many years. And I got people who live in the city that I know, and I haven't heard them complaining too much about it. So it will be interesting.
Jeff, thanks for answering all those questions. Past Warden again.
When you talk about new diagnostic tools and triaging tools and the likes of that, are we talking artificial intelligence here?
Honestly, at this point, I don't believe so, but that would be a question I'd have to ask directly with the province.
Okay, could I have a mover to receive Jeff's report? So Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Noel. Those in favor? That is carried. We will take a short recess and return to look at Public Works. Hey, we are under Public Works with the first report on the antenna structure at Donnybrook Line in Auburn, and Andrew is available for questions if you have questions for him. And if there is no questions, so Councillor Klopp has a question.
Sorry. Yeah, this is a normal process that we do all the time. We've been running off here. Is that correct? Or is this something brand new?
Through the warden, in this case, this is new. We own the current tower, so we own, maintain it, operate it. This is a new item.
Councillor Vanstone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Is this an FM tower, or why are we putting up a tower with the cell phone going on now?
Through the warden, this would be for communications, so for a private carrier. We don't know who that carrier would be, but it'd be for a private carrier.
Any further questions? Is there someone inclined to receive this report? Past Warden McNeil, Councillor Becker. Those in favor? That is carried. Township of North Huron road closure request. Any questions for Andrew on this? Councillor Klopp, please.
Just on process, at our local level, we passed a bylaw that says, the people go to the road department and we don't have to have it come to council anymore. I just wonder if there's down the road, a process, maybe speed things up.
CAO work, please.
Yes, through you, Mr. Warden, due to the length of time, that is absolutely our process. However, due to the length of time, we thought it was advisable that this be brought forward to council for them to vet. Rather than...
I'm all supportive of closing the road for this reason, but...
So is that a motion to receive? Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Finch. Any further discussion? Councillor Harding. You'll have to get your hand up a little quicker next time. Those in favor? That is carried. Snowplow truck rental, again, Andrew is here for questions on that one. Councillor McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you to Andrew. Andrew, was there anything in there for fuel? I mean, just with the conditions we've been over the last 3 or 4 months, I see there's a 3.5% increase year over year, looks like, but do they include anything for fuel? Is that part of the 3.5? Thank you.
Through the warden, I'd have to double check the tender. I don't recall seeing a fuel price adjustment in there. Yeah, it's just a 3.5% increase.
Councillor Klopp.
Again, we're extending 1 year. Why are we just, is this contract over now? Or is this part of it? It was a 3-year contract with a 1-year extension and we're just following through with that? Is that what we're doing here?
Through the warden, yeah, exactly. There was a provision in the contract that did allow for additional extensions. So we're past the 2 extensions where it outlined it had to be 2% if willing on both parties. Now we're into the open, it can be extended.
Councillor Klopp.
And maybe I missed it in the report, but what about retendering the thing again, as bringing that to council? What was in a short version, why did decide not to do that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden, the purpose of bringing this forward at this time is that Public Works is going to be going through a service review. That was direction from County Council prior to the end of this term. It was felt that for 1 year, we'll go through and make the recommendation to Council to extend for 1 year. And at that point, there may be other recommendations to come forward to County Council after the service review, but we're just not in the position to bind ourselves any further than that.
Yep. Thank you for that response. Okay. Councillor Harding, there's a great opportunity if you want to make a motion here. then Councillor Finch, thank you for making the motion, and Councillor McClellan for seconding it. Those in favor, that is carried. And again, Andrew, available for questions, or you're going to present to us this one. This is the asphalt price escalation update. Not really what we want to hear, but go ahead anyway.
Through the warden, the purpose of this report is to bring the awareness to council that there could be overages in the hot mix paving projects, most notably our County Road 17 paving project. There's been an unprecedented 43% increase in the AC index, which helps determine the cost of the asphalt at the time that it's installed. While we believe the contingency that's built into this project should be able to absorb these increases, if there's any major unforeseen issues, there may be some overages on the budget. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Any questions for Andrew? Councillor Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. When I read this, I guess my concern is I think you said with the increase, it's using up 85% of the contingencies right off the bat. I'm concerned, as you stated, that we could run into contingencies. Now, based on the last week or so, I think fuel prices will come down a little bit and hopefully this drops also. But at what point is it triggered where if you've used up all your contingency fund because of an increase and you still run into contingencies, when does it come back to County Council and County Council have an opportunity to say, jeepers, things are really tight this year. We want to drop one of the projects and or whatever. What would be that mechanism? Or once we've agreed we're going to go ahead and do something, do we just do it and bite the bullet at the end of the day?
I would like that, please. Imran is joining us virtually and he has his hand raised. So Imran, I would look to you for an answer for that if possible. Put him on warp speed.
Imran, we can't hear you. Not quite sure what's going on there. It's probably the microphones. I'm sorry. If you disconnect them, that sometimes is a bit of an issue.
Sorry.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, I'm at the Yeah, so good question. The way I would say about that is right now with the price we're seeing, where it's usually the month where it's the highest. And as we indicated in the report, it does use up 85% of the contingency. We do not get an update until the following month. So what we can do is probably bring a report back to council for next month when we have the updated numbers for the next month. All we can do is say at this point, it doesn't look like there's any overages and we're within that contingency. In this case, the project has already started, like the culvert work is underway, so our ability to scale back on the project is limited. But one thing we could do is if it was really tight, we could scale back on the total length of the project. It's not something we want to do, obviously, but that would be one option that we can look at. But we are limited in terms of when the ministry releases that information as to what the pricing is going to be. And what I can add is Huron County is not alone in feeling this pressure right now. In fact, we have carried a larger contingency than a lot of the other counties for exactly the same reason. And yeah, the pressures are there everywhere. So any further questions, I can try to answer to the best of my ability.
Councillor Klopp.
Yes, thank you. When I read this, it's the first time I've seen this too. So my question is two-part. One, we don't have a number. It says 85, it could be 85%. I guess, is it 85% of $1,000 or 85% of $800,000? I didn't see that in there. But also you made the comment and it shows here May, June, July, and it fluctuates. We're starting a project. So the process, if we start, we award a contract in April is then this thing doesn't get paved till July. So we'll going back to 2025 in real terms there. So with the bill, is the bill billed to us the day that the asphalt is paved, say it's August, or is it or do they pick May when it's maybe a little higher, like right now it's 1,500. I guess I'm just wondering about that process. And my other part of this, and it ties in with was mentioned about review. I did refer back to our lower tier and asked how we do it, and his process is that we just bill it. We get the contract, that's the price, and he said he thinks that's he said that's how we do it. Clearly, this year is a big example of. I'm glad our process is we just bill it that day when we put the contract out. We ask the contractors, "What are you going to charge for the asphalt?" and lock it in. It might be something that maybe we need to can have as that review at the year. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, are they going to be able to answer my two questions about what does the 85% look like?
I got lost in the translation there, Councillor Klopp. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warren, through you. Again, I don't have the exact number on hand, but I believe the contingency allowance is about 500,000. So the 85% would be 85% of that. To answer your other question about the process, so the way it's structured and basically the difference you're describing in terms of charging at the time of tendering versus charging at the time of when they do the payment. What we call that is basically indexing. So asphalt price indexing, where the intention there is to be fair to both parties, the contractor and the county. So that is definitely the second option, and we can certainly include that as part of our service review for council to consider if that's the approach we want to take. From our experience, what happens in that scenario is that the contractor that are submitting the bid, they will not want to take on that risk. So the price that they submit at the time usually incorporates that level of adjustment that they feel, possibly a little bit more. Especially with large-scale rural paving projects where the quantities can be significant, they don't want to carry that risk, so they pass on that risk to the municipality or the county. So yeah, there's both ways to do it. I guess the benefit of indexing is you pay for, if there's cost reductions, you can take advantage of that. If there's a cost increase, yes, you pay a little bit extra, but it's fair to both parties. But the other process does make the budgeting side of it easier, so you can predict a little bit better what the costs are going to be at the end of the day. I will say we have followed this process for a few years, and it's more so just because of current global events that we're seeing this large increase. For the last little while, we've never had this much of an increase. Usually, we're able to carry our user contingency pretty reasonably for the AC price there. So.
Follow up, Councillor Klopp.
Thank you, and I appreciate. I probably got lost in there too. My second question was, when does it kick in? When does the contractor kick in? When he starts to pour the asphalt, say pick August of last year, is that when you're going to get your bill? Because we appreciate we put a contract out and you come here maybe in April or May and say we've been awarded a contract for Highway 83. I'll pick that one, but it doesn't get paved till maybe September. So when does the contractor state to us this is our cost?
Yeah. So thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. That would be the month that they actually do the paving. So the difference is calculated based on the month that is put out versus the month that they're paving. So they're not paving right now. The estimate that we put on for council's awareness is if they were to pave right now, that's the adjustment we'd be looking at. If the prices do go down in August, and that's when they're paving, so the adjustment will apply from then. And I believe the difference between prices has to be at least 5% for either party, plus or minus for the adjustment to kick in. So if the adjustment is less than 5% compared to the month that they tendered in, then there is no adjustment basically either way. And this is the standard approach used by most counties and the MTO as well.
Last opportunity, Councillor.
Yeah, and it's just a comment. I appreciated your arguments about a process that we do at our local level. It's interesting. We had the same discussion. Obviously, there is pushback from businesses, but let's have that. Let's at least look at that for the next council to have that full debate. I think it warrants a bit. Just to point out, in 2025, it was $9.96 for January. And by the time summer came, it was $11.95. That's a pretty big increase too last year, and especially if it eats our contingency funds when we're trying to balance budgets.
Any further questions for Andrew or Imran? Is there someone willing to make a motion? Councillor Harding, thank you. Councillor Van Stone, those in favor, that is carried. Economic development is on the dock now. Welcome to Mark and Chris.
Good morning. Through you, Warden. The report before you outlines a recent expression of interest that the Huron County's Economic Development Department submitted to the Ontario Ministry of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development to be considered as a location to implement the regional economic development through immigration program. The program length is expected to be 1 year from August 2026 to August 2027. The READY program aims to help communities like ours attract and retain skilled international workers by creating localized pathways to permanent residency for newcomers working in participating regions. The READY program is something that Council has heard about before. In April 2025, the Huron County Chamber of Commerce and some of its members came before this Council and requested support to retain their existing international workforce who are contributing to the local economy. The READY program is believed to strengthen employers' options to retain existing staff by providing a localized pathway towards permanent residency.
Since that presentation from the Chamber, we as staff have continued to hear from several other businesses in other industries, along with newcomers to Canada themselves, who have requested that Huron County implement the READY program. This program is viewed as offering critical support for employers and their workforce needs. Now, even though we have submitted the expression of interest, Our participation in the program is not guaranteed. The ministry will be reviewing all expressions of interest submissions and will decide on the location where the READY program will be implemented. But if successful, we anticipate being able to implement the READY program within existing budgets by allocating existing resources as necessary. However, the work also aligns very closely with employment priorities of the local immigration partnership and workforce priorities of the economic development as a whole. Now, the information before you highlights that to proceed with Huron County's expression of interest in the READY program, we require resolutions of support from County Council. We've also been instructed by the ministry that Huron County's expression of interest also requires as many letters of support as possible from our partnering municipalities. With that, we both welcome any questions you might have.
Okay, council questions. Councillor Klopp.
Yeah, the report explains it well. It makes sense to me. I'm supportive of it.
So that was a motion put forward by Councillor Klopp, seconded by Past Warden McClellan. And if we were handing out prizes for the longest motion in the agenda, you would have got that today. But we are going to receive, support, authorize, collaborate, execute, and distribute. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you for the work you're doing on that.
Mr. Warden, they did mention that as many letters of support would be beneficial. Are they sending a request to the lower tiers to get those letters of support also? Chris, please.
Yeah, I can take that through you, Warden. We'd be happy to distribute a template out to all of the staff or whatever would make most sense, and make it as easy as possible to submit that letter. Yeah.
So in my eagerness to not read that lengthy motion, it actually is in the motion at the very end. So yes, questions answered.
Motions.
Michael is available for our year-end financial review. He's available for questions if you would have some for him. And if there's no questions, Past Warden McClellan puts forward the motion and Councillor Anderson seconds that. Those in favor? That is carried. Susan is going to give us a verbal update on amendments to procedural bylaw. Please, Susan.
Good morning. Thank you, Warden. So the report before you is the adjustments to the procedural bylaw based on the committee restructuring that the report that was here at the last meeting. I am asking that we also include a couple amendments that we didn't think of with the Planning and ECDev board. Planning and ECDev departments being merged, we are asking that they both present on the same day just for the sake of efficiencies. So I know it's not in the report and I apologize for that. So I am asking that the bottom part of the motion be the presented amendments and the amendments to allow the ECDev board presenting on day one be included for the next meeting.
Councillor Klopp. Motion. And Councillor Finch seconding that motion. Those in favor? And that is carried. Correspondence. Is there anything specific anybody wants to pull from that list? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to receive the correspondence. And that's Councillor Vanstone, Councillor Finch. Those in favor? That is carried. Is there any notice of motion? Seeing none, then bylaws. Is there a mover and a seconder to, that's Councillor Basnet, and seconded by Councillor Harding to forward the two bylaws as presented in our package. Those in favor? That is carried. We do have a close to the public session, so I would now be looking for a motion to enter into a closed session. Councillor Becker, Councillor McClellan, those in favor? That is carried. Okay, I would now be looking for a motion to go back into our regular session of council. Past Warden Ginn, Past Warden McClellan, those in favor? That is carried. And CAO Work will do a rise and report from our closed session.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden, the purpose of going into close today was for council to receive information about personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees at our homes for the aged, and for council to discuss labor relations or employee negotiations relating to ONA homes.
And with that, I'd be looking for a motion to give staff direction to proceed as that direction was given and closed. So Councillor Basnet, Councillor Harding, those in favor, that is carried. Just a reminder for you for Thursday, July the 2nd, don't come on Wednesday, July 1st. The doors will not be open to you, but come for Thursday, July 2nd, get yourself cleaned up and looking spiffy. There will be the photos after the meeting with council and SMT. I could if you want, but I'll wait till the mic's off.
Microphone? I expect somebody to step up.
Who would like to confirm our actions for, is it this afternoon yet?
Yeah, it is.
This morning and this afternoon, Councillor Klopp and Councillor McClellan seconding that. Those in favor. And Councillor Harding, could you fill in for the guy beside you and help us achieve what the two that normally help us bail out on? And somebody, Councillor Anderson would love to help you do that. So those in favor, that is carried. Thank you for the time spent on today's topics.